My husband asked for my kidney for his mother, then divorced me. But the plot twist is that the kidney ended up saving a tycoon who was ready to destroy my ex-husband's life. Watch karma at work. The sharp, antiseptic scent seemed to have fused with the pores of Clara's skin. For 2 weeks, she had spent her days in the corridor of this elite private hospital. She sat on a cold waiting room bench while her husband, Julian, paced before her with a haggard face. Inside the VIP suite, Beatrice Caldwell, Clara's mother-in-law, was battling end-stage renal failure. Clara. Julian's voice shattered the silence. He knelt in front of Clara's chair, gripping his wife's cold hands. Julian's eyes were red, filled with a convincing plea. The doctors say Mom doesn't have much time left. Dialysis isn't working anymore. Her heart is getting weaker. Clara swallowed, her throat dry. I know, Julian. It breaks my heart to see her like this. We can't wait on the national transplant list, Clara. That could take years, Julian urged, his grip tightened. But you're a match. The initial test last week proved your blood type and tissues are compatible. It's a miracle, honey. Clara turned her face away. This topic had been brought up 3 times in the last 2 days, and each time, the fear became more real. Losing an organ was no small matter. Julian, I'm scared, Clara whispered honestly. It's major surgery. What if there are complications? What if I can't get pregnant later? Julian let out a long, slightly harsh sigh before softening his expression again. He cupped Clara's face. Honey, listen to me. Medical technology is so advanced now. You'll be perfectly fine. And as for getting pregnant, we have plenty of time. The most important thing right now is Mom. Julian looked straight into Clara's eyes, playing his trump card. Clara, you grew up in the foster system. You always said you wanted to feel the warmth of a big family, right? Mom may have been a little hard on you, but that's just because she wanted you to be a tough daughter-in-law. This is your moment, Clara. Prove that you're not an outsider. Prove that you are one of us, part of the Caldwell family. Those words struck Clara's weakest point. Family. Since her parents died in a car crash when she was 10, Clara had lived in a long, lonely silence. Marrying Julian 2 years ago was her hope for a place to finally call home. However, Beatrice Caldwell had never truly accepted her because of Clara's modest background, a stark contrast to Julian's family, who were respected textile magnates. If I do this, Clara's voice trembled, will your mom really accept me? Of course, Julian beamed, as if a 1,000-ton weight had just been lifted from his shoulders. He kissed the back of Clara's hand repeatedly. You will be the savior of this family. Mom will love you like her own daughter. I promise, Clara. I will take care of you for the rest of my life. We will be so happy after this. The promise sounded so sweet, so intoxicating. Clara, starved for affection, finally gave a slow nod. All right, Julian, I'll donate my kidney to your mother. A triumphant smile flashed across Julian's face, though only for a second before he pulled Clara into a tight hug. Thank you, honey. You won't regret this. Clara returned the hug, unaware that behind her back, Julian's gaze was not one of love, but of someone who had just closed a difficult business deal. The administrative process moved with lightning speed, as if Julian and the hospital had prepared everything, only waiting for Clara's yes. The night before the surgery, Clara sat in a VIP administration office. Before her was a stack of medical consent forms. Julian sat beside her, while a notary and a junior surgeon waited. This is standard procedure, Mrs. Caldwell, the young doctor said. A statement that this donation is voluntary, without coercion, and without material compensation. Clara skimmed the documents, her eyes catching clauses about the risk of death and long-term complications. Her hand trembled as she held the pen. Sign here, honey. Julian pointed to the line at the bottom. And here. Oh, one more. This is an emergency rights waiver form. What's this? Clara asked, pointing to the last page, where the print was tiny. It's just a formality in case of a force majeure situation in the operating room, Julian explained quickly. For example, if there's a technical issue, the doctors have full authority to make the best decision for the safety of the international organ. Clara, physically and mentally exhausted from the series of pre-op tests, didn't argue. She just wanted this to be over. She wanted to see Beatrice's proud smile. She wanted to feel like she belonged. With a deep breath, Clara signed her name. The black ink dried, sealing her fate. The next morning, Clara was lying on a gurney, dressed in a faded green surgical gown. She was wheeled down the long corridor toward the central surgical unit. The fluorescent lights on the ceiling streaked past above her, making her dizzy. In front of the operating room doors, Julian held her hand one last time. "I love you," Julian whispered. "We'll be waiting for you in the recovery room. After this, we'll take that vacation to Europe, just the two of us." "You promise?" Clara asked weakly, the pre-op sedative starting to take effect. "I promise," Julian replied. He kissed her forehead. The kiss felt warm, the only warmth Clara felt in the chill of the hallway. The automatic doors slid open. Clara was pushed inside. The air was much colder here. The rhythmic beeping of the heart monitor was the only music. The anesthesiologist placed an oxygen mask over her face. "Count down from 10, Mrs. Caldwell." The doctor's voice sounded distant. 10, 9, 8. In the final haze of her consciousness, Clara prayed, "God, please protect me. Let this sacrifice be the glue that holds my family together." Then darkness consumed her. The pain was nothing like Clara had imagined. It wasn't just an ache. It was a fire burning in her left side. Every breath felt like the stab of a knife. Clara blinked, trying to adjust to the light in the room. She had expected to see Julian's worried face, or maybe a large bouquet of flowers, but the scene that greeted her was starkly different. She was in a standard, triple occupancy ward. The walls were a dull cream color. There was a water stain on the ceiling. Beside her were two other patients, separated by a grimy curtain. The sound of coughing from the next bed was heartbreaking. "Why am I here?" Clara thought, confused. Julian said I would be in the VIP suite next to his mom. Clara tried to reach the nurse's call button, but her hand was too weak. She felt her left side, which was wrapped in a thick bandage. Her kidney was gone. She had done her part. The door opened. It wasn't a nurse, but a group of people that made Clara's heart pound and then stop altogether. Julian entered first. He was wearing a tailored suit, his hair slicked back. Behind him, a nurse pushed a wheelchair. In it sat Beatrice Caldwell. The old woman's face was still pale, but her eyes shone with a sharp, frightening energy. And beside Julian stood another woman, tall, beautiful, wearing a striking maroon dress. Her hand was wrapped intimately around Julian's arm. "Julian." Clara's voice was hoarse, her throat aching. "Mom, why am I in a public ward? Was the surgery a success?" Julian didn't answer. He walked to Clara's bedside and tossed a thick brown envelope onto her chest, right over her fresh wound. "The surgery?" "Oh, you did your part," Julian replied flatly. There was no more honey, no more term of endearment. His voice was as cold as ice. Clara stared at the envelope with a trembling hand. "What is this?" "Divorce papers," Julian said casually. "I've already signed them. You just need to sign, and my lawyer will handle the rest." Clara's world collapsed. The beeping of the monitor beside her sounded like an alarm siren. "Divorce? But why? I just gave my kidney to your mother. You said we were a family. You promised." Beatrice cackled, her voice raspy but full of venom. "Don't be delusional, Clara. You were never on our level. You were just some foster kid who happened to have the same blood type as me. That was your only function." The old woman smiled, the most terrifying smile Clara had ever seen. "Thanks for the kidney, but now that it's out of your body, you're useless. Used goods don't belong on the display shelf." Tears streamed down Clara's face, soaking the stiff pillow. The pain from her incision was nothing compared to the agony ripping through her chest. She looked at Julian, searching for a trace of the man who had proposed to her. "Julian, tell me this is a lie," Clara sobbed. "You love me, right?" The woman in the red dress beside Julian let out a small laugh. She raised her left hand, showing off a large, glittering diamond ring on her finger. "Hello, Clara. Do you remember me?" the woman asked. Clara squinted through her tears. Tiffany. Tiffany was Julian's ex-girlfriend from college. They had broken up because Tiffany pursued a modeling career overseas. "Julian never loved you, darling," Tiffany said, stroking Julian's shoulder. He married you because I was busy in Paris, and his mother happened to need a spare part, a healthy one. We planned this ever since his mom was diagnosed a year ago. As soon as you agreed to donate, your role was over. Now I'm back, and we're getting officially engaged." Julian nodded without a shred of guilt. "Tiffany is pregnant with my child, Clara. A boy. A true heir to the Caldwell family. We need our status to be clear, so sign the papers and get out of our lives." "You're monsters," Clara hissed, her anger rising through her despair. "I'll go to the police. I'll sue you." "On what grounds?" Julian sneered. "You signed a voluntary, uncoerced donation agreement. Legally, we're clean. And for the divorce, I'll give you a $10,000 settlement, enough to rent a shabby studio until your wound heals." $10,000! Clara screamed hysterically, ignoring the searing pain in her side. "You took a part of my body and threw me away like trash for $10,000. Take it or leave it," Beatrice snapped. "Let's go, Julie and Tiffany. The air in this ward reeks of poverty. I don't want my new kidney getting contaminated." They turned to leave Clara in her shattered world. Clara felt her spirit leaving with their footsteps. She had been used, operated on, and discarded in less than 48 hours. "Doctor!" Just as Julian reached for the doorknob, the door swung open with force. A tall man in a long white coat strode in. His aura of authority was so strong it made the small room feel even more cramped. Behind him, 2 nurses and an assistant followed with tense faces. It was Dr. Leo Vance, the head of transplant surgery at the hospital, the man who had led Clara's operation yesterday. His usually stoic face was now rigid and cold. His eyes shot daggers at Julian and Beatrice. Who authorized a post-transplant patient to be subjected to this kind of emotional distress? Dr. Vance's voice was low but boomed in the quiet room. He glanced at Clara's erratic heart monitor. Julian tried to put on an arrogant front. "Doctor, our business here is finished. We were just discussing a family matter. Besides, my mother needs her rest. Why don't you focus on taking care of her in the VIP suite?" Dr. Vance shifted his gaze from the monitor to Julian's face, then down to Beatrice in her wheelchair. His expression was a hard-to-read mix of pity and disgust. "That's precisely what I wanted to discuss, Mr. Caldwell," Dr. Vance said. He walked past Julian and stood beside Clara's bed, as if creating a protective barrier. "There seems to be a fatal misunderstanding that you haven't realized yet, because you've been too busy celebrating your premature victory." "What do you mean, Doctor?" Tiffany asked sharply. "Mrs. Caldwell is fine, isn't she? The surgery was a success." Dr. Vance adjusted his glasses. He looked straight at Beatrice. "The surgery to remove Mrs. Caldwell's kidney was indeed a success," Dr. Vance said calmly. "But the transplant surgery into your body, Mrs. Caldwell, was canceled." Silence. A complete, suffocating silence. Beatrice's eyes widened. "What? What do you mean, canceled? I feel better. My side is bandaged." "That's from the preparatory incision, ma'am. We opened you up, but we did not insert a new kidney," Dr. Vance explained with a cruel clinical tone. Just before the transplant was to begin, the final blood test results came back from the central lab. "We found an active cytomegalovirus, or CMV, infection with a very high titer in your blood, as well as antibodies that suddenly reacted negatively to the donor tissue. If we had forced the transplant of Clara's kidney, your body would have rejected it within hours, and you would have died on the operating table from anaphylactic shock." Julian's face went white. "Wait, so my mother didn't get the kidney?" "No," Dr. Vance stated firmly. "And with this infection, your mother has been removed from every transplant list for at least the next 6 months, until the infection is completely cleared." Julian staggered backward, hitting the wall. Tiffany covered her open mouth. Then, Clara's voice came weakly from the bed. She was still processing this. A small seed of hope grew in her heart. "Then my kidney. If Mom didn't use it, is it still here? Can you put it back?" Dr. Vance looked at Clara, his expression softening dramatically. There was respect in his eyes. "I'm sorry, Clara. A kidney that has been removed and detached from its blood vessels cannot be returned to the original owner's body. The medical risks are far too great, Doctor," Vance answered gently. "Then where is my wife's kidney?" Julian shouted, his panic exploding. "If it's not in my mother, where did you put it? It's our asset." "Watch your mouth," Dr. Vance cut in sharply. "A human kidney is not a commercial asset." The doctor took a medical chart from his nurse. "In accordance with international emergency protocols and the emergency donor reallocation form you forced your wife to sign yesterday, Mr. Caldwell." Dr. Vance emphasized his words with cynical precision. "When an organ has been harvested, but the primary recipient, Beatrice Caldwell, is declared medically unfit on the spot, we are obligated to give it to the first priority patient on the national waiting list with a tissue match to prevent the organ from being wasted. A kidney can only survive for a few hours outside the body." "So," Julian trembled, "so last night we immediately transplanted Clara's kidney into the patient in the presidential suite on the top floor. The surgery was a 100% success. The recipient was a perfect match for Clara's kidney." The third-class ward now felt like a pressure cooker about to explode. "You gave it to someone else?" Beatrice shrieked, trying to stand from her wheelchair but failing due to weakness. "That's my kidney! It's my right! I paid for this surgery." Technically, Clara's insurance covered her removal procedure, and the new recipient covered the cost of their transplant, Dr. Vance replied calmly. "And you can't sue. The very document you created to trap Clara so she couldn't back out has become your own undoing. The clause states that the donor surrenders full rights to the medical team for the use of the organ for the purpose of saving a life in the event of failure with the primary recipient." Julian tore at his own hair. His plan was in ruins. His mother was still gravely ill. Clara's kidney was gone. And now Clara knew their evil intentions. "Who?" Julian asked, breathing heavily. "Who took the kidney? I'll demand compensation. I'll make him pay millions." Dr. Vance gave a thin smile, a smile that held a dangerous warning. "I'm not sure you'd dare to extort this man, Mr. Caldwell. Your family's entire textile company is probably worth less than his car collection." "Who?" Tiffany snapped impatiently. "The recipient of Clara's kidney is Mr. Sterling." The name dropped like an atomic bomb in the middle of the room. Julian's jaw went slack, his legs gave out. Mr. Sterling, the founder of the Sterling Group, the largest real estate and energy conglomerate in the country. A figure known as a titan of industry, a man who could crush a company with a snap of his fingers. Rumor had it he was seriously ill and had vanished from public life. It turned out he was right here, waiting for a donor. "Mr. Sterling?" Julian mumbled, his face no longer pale but as white as paper. If he dared to bother Mr. Sterling, his life was over. Dr. Vance turned back to Clara, who was still lying in shock. "Clara," the doctor said, "Mr. Sterling's personal assistant is outside. He would like to move you to a VIP suite on the top floor, adjacent to Mr. Sterling's. He wishes to thank you personally because your kidney saved him from a critical state." Clara looked from Julian to Tiffany to Beatrice. Their faces, once filled with arrogance, were now masks of pure fear and panic. Julian tried to approach Clara again, his expression instantly shifting to one of desperate pleading. "Clara, honey, listen to me. That talk about divorce was just a moment of anger. Mom was just joking. Let's call it off, okay? We're family, right?" Clara glanced at the divorce papers lying on her blanket, then at Julian's deceitful eyes. The pain in her heart slowly froze over, replaced by something hard and cold. She turned to Dr. Vance. "Doctor." Clara's voice was weak but firm. "Please get me out of here. I don't know these people." "Clara!" Julian cried out in panic. "Don't be ridiculous. You need me." "Nurses, call security." Dr. Vance ordered without looking at Julian. 2 burly security guards entered, dragging a struggling Julian away and pushing Beatrice's wheelchair out. Tiffany followed, her head bowed in shame. Her diamond ring no longer seemed to sparkle. As the door closed, separating Clara from her dark past, Dr. Vance reached out to help adjust her pillow. "You're safe now, Clara," the doctor said. "And it seems you've just found yourself a much more powerful new family." Clara closed her eyes. Tears fell again. But this time, they were not tears of sorrow. She had lost a kidney and a cruel husband. But somehow, she felt the weight on her shoulders was much, much lighter. On the top floor, an old tycoon was waiting, ready to offer her the world in exchange for the new life he had just received. The move felt like a journey between dimensions. Just hours ago, Clara had been breathing the scent of cheap disinfectant in a stuffy, third-class ward. Now, her gurney glided smoothly over the thick carpets of the hospital's top floor, the Emerald Wing, an area reserved for high-ranking officials and billionaires. Clara still felt dizzy from the anesthesia, but she was lucid enough to sense the change in atmosphere. There were no noisy visitors, no crying babies, just a dignified silence and the fresh scent of lilies. Dr. Vance walked beside the gurney, checking the IV in Clara's hand. On the other side walked a middle-aged man with sharp, Asian features in a perfect black suit. The man introduced himself as Mr. Chen, Mr. Sterling's chief of staff. "Your room is ready, Mrs. Caldwell, Mr. Chen said with formal, precise English. "The chairman has instructed that you receive care equivalent to his own. All costs, from the surgery to post-operative recovery, have been covered by the Sterling Group." The gurney was pushed into a suite. The room looked more like a luxury apartment than a hospital room. There was a living area with a leather sofa, a small kitchenette, and a massive glass window displaying a panoramic view of the Manhattan skyline. As the nurses transferred Clara to the plush, electric bed, her tears began to fall again, not from physical pain, but from the agonizing contrast. Her own husband, the man who swore before God to protect her, had thrown her into a squalid ward after taking her organ. Meanwhile, a stranger she had never even met was treating her like a princess because of a medical coincidence. "Why?" Clara asked softly to Mr. Chen, who stood politely at the foot of the bed. "Why are you being so kind?" "I was just a coincidental donor." Mr. Chen bowed respectfully. His face was stoic, but his eyes held genuine sincerity. "To you it may be a coincidence, ma'am, but to Mr. Sterling, your kidney is a second chance to see the sunrise. In our world, a debt of life is the most expensive debt of all, and Mr. Sterling always pays his debts in full." Mr. Chen placed a new smartphone on the bedside table. "Your old phone was destroyed by Mr. Caldwell while you were in surgery, according to a nurse's report. This is a replacement. My contact number and that of our legal team are already programmed in. If your ex-husband or his family attempts to come within 100 yards of you, press the emergency button. Our security team will handle the rest." "Handle it?" Clara asked hesitantly. "Ensure they do not disturb your rest, by any means necessary," Mr. Chen replied calmly. Dr. Vance finished checking her vitals monitor. He looked at Clara with a rare, faint smile. "Rest, Clara. Your wound needs time to heal. But remember, physical healing is easy. The hard part is healing this." He pointed to his own chest. "Don't let them win by seeing you broken." That night, for the first time in her 2-year marriage, Clara slept without the anxiety of being scolded by her mother-in-law or ignored by her husband. In that quiet luxury, a seed of courage began to grow in her fractured heart. A week passed. Clara's physical condition improved rapidly, thanks to first-class nutrition and a team of specialists monitoring her around the clock. But the outside world kept spinning. That morning, Mr. Chen entered with a stern-faced man carrying a leather briefcase. "Mrs. Caldwell, allow me to introduce Mr. Fletcher, the head of Mr. Sterling's personal legal division. He is here to assist with your civil matters." Clara sat up, leaning against the pillows. "Civil matters?" "Mr. Fletcher opened his briefcase. "The divorce papers Mr. Caldwell threw at you. We have studied them. Mr. Caldwell's lawyer, whose competence is questionable, pushed for the divorce to be finalized as quickly as possible on the grounds of irreconcilable differences. Mr. Caldwell wanted a default judgment to get it over with." Clara clenched her fists over the blanket. "He wanted to marry that woman as soon as possible." "Precisely," Mr. Fletcher nodded. "And because of that, he was careless. Very careless." Mr. Fletcher presented a thick document. "Mr. Caldwell and his mother were convinced you were a naive woman who understood nothing about the law. During your 2-year marriage, Mr. Caldwell often had you sign various company documents under the guise of administrative paperwork for the director's wife." Clara nodded. "He said it was for tax purposes. I just trusted him." Mr. Fletcher smiled grimly, the smile of a predator who had found easy prey. Mr. Caldwell used your name to register property assets and majority shares in 2 of his textile subsidiary companies. The purpose was asset protection. If his main company went bankrupt or was sued by a bank, these assets would be safe because they weren't in his name, he thought. Because you were an obedient wife, these assets would remain under his control. And then? Clara's heart began to race. And then he filed for divorce without demanding a division of marital assets because he wanted a fast process and didn't want to pay you a single dime. In his divorce petition, it is clearly written, "The husband makes no claim to any assets held by the wife and relinquishes all rights to assets registered in the wife's name out of goodwill." Clara was speechless. "Wait, what do you mean?" "It means, Mr." Fletcher cut in, with undisguised satisfaction, that legally 2 textile factories in New Jersey, a villa in the Hamptons, and 3 commercial properties in Soho that are registered in your name are now, officially and irrevocably, yours. Entirely yours, once the judge's gavel falls. Julian doesn't realize? He's too busy with his new woman and panicking over his sick mother. He forgot that he ever hid those assets under your name. Or perhaps he thought you were too stupid to hire a lawyer of my caliber who could trace them. Clara laughed. It started as a soft chuckle and grew into a bitter, cathartic laugh that released the tightness in her chest. Julian, who had always called her stupid and poor, had just accidentally handed over nearly 40% of his wealth. "What should I do, Mr. Fletcher?" Clara asked, her eyes now gleaming with a sharp light. "Sign the divorce agreement. Let him think he's won by getting rid of you quickly. Don't mention the assets. Let the court ruling be finalized first. After the divorce decree is issued, then we will send the notice of asset seizure." Clara took the pen. Her hand no longer trembled as it had when she signed the kidney donation form. This time, she was signing her emancipation. "Do it, Mr. Fletcher. Take him down, slowly." 3 weeks post-op, Clara was finally allowed to leave her suite. Mr. Chen took her to the hospital's private rooftop garden. There, sitting in a high-tech electric wheelchair facing the afternoon sun, was Mr. Sterling. The man was around 70, but his aura of power was still palpable, though his body looked thin after the surgery. He wore silk pajamas with a thick blanket over his legs. "Come closer, child." Mr. Sterling's voice was deep and commanding, yet it held a grandfatherly warmth. Clara approached slowly, feeling awkward in the presence of one of the richest men in America. "Good afternoon, sir." Mr. Sterling turned his wheelchair. His face was stern, etched with sharp lines, but his eyes studied Clara with a profound intensity. "Don't call me sir. Call me Grandpa, or Conrad if you're not comfortable yet," he said. He pointed to the chair next to him. "Sit." After Clara sat, he stared at her for a long moment. "So, you're the woman who gave half her life for a devil, but God diverted it to me." I didn't have a choice at the time," Clara answered honestly. "We always have a choice, Clara. But you chose to sacrifice because you longed for love," Mr. Sterling cut in, his words sharp but not hurtful. "I've read your file. Grew up in the system, fought on your own, then manipulated by the Caldwells. You remind me of my granddaughter who passed away 10 years ago. She also had a heart that was too soft." Mr. Sterling sighed, his gaze distant. "Listen, Clara, your kidney is working in my body. Every time I take a piss, every time my blood is cleansed of toxins, it's because of you. The doctors say I might have another 10 or 15 years. That is precious time for me to settle my legacy." "I'm glad you're well, sir," Clara said sincerely. "Fletcher tells me you've agreed to take your ex-husband's assets." "Good. That's the first step," Mr. Sterling said. "But wealth alone isn't enough. You need teeth." Clara frowned. "Teeth? This world is cruel, child. Good people like you get eaten alive if you don't have teeth. The money from Julian's assets will run out if you can't manage it. What's your plan? Open a bakery? Get married again?" Clara was silent. She hadn't thought that far ahead. "I'll offer you a deal," Mr. Sterling continued. "You gave me life. I will give you the world. Not just money, but the power to defend it. I will educate you, make you a respected businesswoman. I will train you until you can stand in front of your ex-husband and see him as an ant, not a giant. Mr. Sterling held out his wrinkled but strong hand. "Be my granddaughter. Become part of the Sterling family. But the conditions are tough. You can't be a crybaby. You have to study hard. You have to kill the old Clara. That meek, subservient doormat. What do you say?" Clara looked at his hand. She remembered Beatrice's sneer, Tiffany's laugh, Julian's betrayal. If she returned to the world as the old Clara, she would just be trampled on again. Clara took Mr. Sterling's hand. Her grip was firm. "Teach me, Grandpa. Teach me how to destroy them." Mr. Sterling smiled broadly. "Now that's the spirit I was looking for. Welcome to the family, Clara." 6 months flew by, time moving at a different pace for Clara. She no longer lived at the hospital but in the main Sterling residence, a sprawling mansion on Park Avenue. Her life, however, was not one of leisure. Her daily schedule was brutal. 5 a.m. Yoga and meditation for physical recovery. 7 a.m. Breakfast, while reading global economic summaries with Mr. Sterling, who would grill her with sharp questions. Why did nickel futures drop? What is the impact on the textile industry? If Clara couldn't answer, she had to reread the reports. 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Intensive private tutoring in business management, corporate law, public speaking, and high society etiquette. The best mentors were brought directly to the mansion. 4 p.m. Visits to Sterling Group, subsidiary offices to observe real-world operations. The hesitant Clara slowly vanished, her appearance transformed. Her once long, unkempt hair was now cut in a chic, shoulder-length bob that conveyed decisiveness and modernity. Her skin glowed from regular treatments. Her drab housewife clothes were replaced with designer blazers and high heels that clicked with confidence on marble floors. But the biggest change was in her eyes. The pleading look seeking approval was gone. Her gaze was now sharp, analytical, and cold. Meanwhile, news from the outside world reached her through Mr. Fletcher's reports. The divorce was finalized 3 months ago. Julian didn't attend the final hearing, too busy planning his engagement to Tiffany. As planned, the assets in Clara's name were legally hers. However, Mr. Fletcher deliberately delayed the seizure. "Let them get fat before the slaughter," Clara had said during a strategy meeting. "Let Julian feel secure using those factories and properties. Just when he feels he's on top, we'll pull the rug out from under him." Beatrice's condition worsened. Without a new kidney, she needed dialysis 3 times a week. The costs were piling up. Julian was starting to have cash flow problems due to Tiffany's extravagant lifestyle and his mother's medical bills. "They've started selling off some of their luxury cars," Mr. Chen reported one afternoon, "and market rumors say Caldwell Textiles is looking for a major investor to cover short-term debt." Clara, who was reviewing the financial reports of a Sterling subsidiary she now managed, smiled faintly. "They need money," she murmured. "What a coincidence. We have plenty of it." Clara closed her laptop. She looked at her reflection in the window. "Mr. Chen, prepare an acquisition plan, but don't use the Sterling Group name directly. Use Vanguard Capital, the new investment firm I founded last month." "You wish to buy your ex-husband's company, ma'am?" "Not buy," Clara corrected. "I want to offer him a rope made of gold. He will gladly put it around his own neck." The atmosphere at the Caldwell Textiles office was grim. Julian slammed the phone down in frustration. The bank rejected another credit extension. He yelled at his terrified secretary. "Damn it. They said our debt ratio is in the red." Tiffany walked in without knocking. Her growing baby bump was visible under her tight dress, but her face was far from happy. "Julian, my credit card was declined at Hermes." "It was so embarrassing," Tiffany protested. "I thought we were rich. Why is the limit maxed out?" "Shut up, Tiffany. I have a headache," Julian snapped. "Mom needs surgery for a new dialysis access port tomorrow. It costs $50,000. Our main supplier won't ship materials because we're 2 months behind on payments, and you're thinking about a handbag? Well, that's your fault. We should have gotten a bigger settlement or something from that pathetic ex-wife of yours, or blackmailed that doctor." "Don't mention that doctor." Julian's face paled. He was still traumatized by Mr. Chen's implicit threats. Since the incident at the hospital, Julian hadn't dared to find out what happened to Clara. To him, she was either dead or homeless under a bridge. Suddenly, the intercom buzzed. "Mr. Caldwell, there's a special courier from the Sterling Group in the lobby with an invitation for you." Julian's eyes widened. "The Sterling Group? Send him up, quickly." A uniformed courier entered and handed over a blood-red velvet envelope with gold lettering. Julian opened it with trembling hands. An exclusive invitation to the Sterling Group's annual investment gala. The Plaza Hotel. Saturday at 7 p.m. Tucked inside was a small card. "We hear Caldwell Textiles has potential. We invite you to present a business proposal to our new director handling investments in the textile sector." Julian felt like he had just won the lottery. His stressed face brightened instantly. "Tiffany, look at this!" Julian exclaimed hysterically. "The Sterling Group, the #1 conglomerate, is looking at us. If they invest, not only will our debts be cleared, we could expand overseas." Tiffany snatched the invitation, her eyes sparkling at the gold logo. "Seriously? Does that mean we'll be super rich again?" "More than rich." "This is our ticket to the major leagues," Julian laughed, forgetting all his problems. "Get your best dress ready. We have to look perfect on Saturday. We have to impress that investment director." They had no idea the invitation was not a ticket to heaven, but a summons to judgment. Across the city, in a massive walk-in closet, Clara stood before a mirror. Dr. Vance, who now visited not as a doctor but as a friend, and perhaps more, stood in the doorway, mesmerized. Clara was wearing a midnight blue evening gown that elegantly hugged her form, revealing her graceful shoulders. Around her neck was a diamond necklace from Mr. Sterling, a graduation gift from her business training. "Well?" Clara asked, turning. "You look dangerous," Dr. Vance commented honestly, smiling in admiration. "They won't know what hit them." Clara touched the pendant of her necklace, her smile mysterious. "Julian always said I had to prove I was part of the family," Clara whispered. "Tonight, I'm going to show him the true meaning of family. A family that protects its own and destroys anyone who hurts its members." Clara picked up her clutch. Inside wasn't powder or lipstick, but a flash drive containing asset data and evidence of Julian's fraud, ready to be displayed on a giant screen if necessary. "Let's go, Doctor. The show is about to begin." The grand ballroom of the Plaza Hotel that night was a sea of luxury. A giant crystal chandelier cast light onto the diamond jewelry worn by the wives of tycoons and politicians. Soft jazz music mixed with the clinking of champagne glasses. Julian walked in with his chin high, Tiffany on his arm in a flashy red dress, too flashy for an event of this class, which favored subtle elegance. Julian felt confident. His rented tuxedo fit well, and his pocket was full of new business cards. "Look at them, Julian," Tiffany whispered, her eyes darting around the room. "That's the owner of Asia Bank, and over there, oh my God, that's the Secretary of Commerce. We're really in the big leagues." "Calm down, honey. Don't look so provincial," Julian chided, though his own heart was pounding. "Remember our goal. We find the investment director from Vanguard Capital. His name wasn't on the invitation, but he's the key to saving our company." They took drinks from a passing waiter and tried to mingle, but the response was cold. The business elite would give a polite nod and then turn their backs. The aura of new money and desperation radiating from Julian and Tiffany was palpable to the business predators in the room. Suddenly, the lights dimmed. A spotlight hit the main stage. Mr. Sterling, the legend who had been rumored to be on his deathbed, appeared at the podium in his wheelchair. He looked far healthier than the rumors suggested. The room erupted in applause. "Good evening, friends." Mr. Sterling's voice was deep and charismatic. "Many rumors said I was finished, but as you can see, I'm still here, and that is thanks to an angel who gave me a second chance. Mr. Sterling smiled, his eyes scanning the crowd until they stopped at one point, not on Julian, but past him. "Tonight, I want to introduce the future face of the Sterling Group, the person I have entrusted to lead Vanguard Capital, our newest subsidiary, which will inject funds into the nation's creative and textile industries. Please welcome my daughter, Clara Sterling." The orchestra swelled. The velvet curtain beside the stage opened. Julian choked on his drink. The glass in Tiffany's hand slipped, shattering on the marble floor and drawing the attention of those nearby. But Tiffany didn't care. Her eyes were wide, as if they were about to pop out of their sockets. The woman descending the stage steps was breathtaking. She wore a midnight blue gown that perfectly draped her slender frame. Her hair was styled in a sleek bob, and her face was adorned with natural makeup that highlighted her strong features. It was Clara, the wife Julian had thrown away, the daughter-in-law Beatrice had insulted. But this Clara was different. She walked with a straight back, her gaze sweeping the room with dominance, not fear. She stood beside Mr. Sterling, took the microphone, and began to speak in fluent, measured English. "Thank you, Conrad." Clara's clear voice resonated throughout the ballroom. "Our vision at Vanguard is to empower hidden potential. We are looking for partners who are honest, resilient, and have integrity." Julian felt his feet were nailed to the floor. Cold sweat trickled down his back. "That can't be Clara, the orphan. She's using the Sterling name," Tiffany hissed, her face pale with envy and fear. "Julian, we have to go. She's going to kill us." "Don't be stupid." Julian grabbed Tiffany's arm. His cunning mind was already spinning, overriding his shame. "This is an opportunity. She's Clara, my wife. She must still have feelings for me. If she's the one holding the purse strings, this will be even easier. She's a weak woman, Tiffany. I know how to handle her." After her speech, Clara descended from the stage and was immediately surrounded by business leaders. Julian pulled Tiffany along, rudely pushing through the crowd. "Clara!" Julian called out, his voice a little too loud. Clara stopped. She turned slowly. The crowd parted. Clara looked at Julian and Tiffany. There was no anger in her eyes, no sadness, just a blank stare, as if looking at strangers who had wandered into the wrong room. "I'm sorry, sir?" Clara tilted her head, feigning forgetfulness. "Julian, it's me, Julian. Your husband. I mean your ex-husband?" Julian stammered, his smile stiff. "And this is Tiffany. We were invited." "Ah." Clara nodded curtly, as if just remembering the name of a long-gone maid. "Mr. Caldwell, of Caldwell Textiles. I've read the proposal that reached my secretary's desk. Drastically declining company performance, high debt ratio, and pending legal issues." Julian fell silent, his face turning red with public humiliation. "But," Clara continued, a thin, cold business smile on her lips, "Vanguard Capital is professional. We evaluate numbers, not the past. If you want to talk business, come to my office on Monday morning. Don't bring personal matters." Clara turned, her gown swishing as she walked away, escorted by Dr. Vance, who shot a sharp glare at Julian before leaving. Julian stood frozen. He had just been utterly dismissed, yet also given a sliver of hope. "See?" Julian whispered to Tiffany, his breath ragged. "She still wants to see me. She still cares. We're going to get that money." The luxurious Caldwell family home now felt gloomy. Several expensive paintings were missing from the walls, sold to cover monthly operational costs. The central air conditioning was turned off to save electricity, making the air inside feel stuffy and damp. In the master bedroom, now converted into a makeshift hospital room, Beatrice lay weak. A portable dialysis machine, rented at a high price, hummed in the corner. "Julian," Beatrice called, her voice raspy. Her once plump body was now emaciated, just skin and bones darkened by uremic toxins. Julian sat on the edge of the bed, feeding his mother bland porridge. "Yes, Mom." "It hurts so much, Julian. My bones feel like they're breaking," his mother moaned. "When? When can I have another surgery? Have you found a donor? I heard there are brokers who can find one in China." Julian sighed heavily. "It costs $2 million, Mom. We don't have that kind of money right now. The company's assets are frozen by the bank." "Just sell that bitch Clara's assets," Beatrice snapped, her sudden anger making her heart monitor beep rapidly. "The properties, the factory in Jersey, they're in her name, but it's our money. Sell them." Julian bit his lip. He didn't dare tell his mother that the hasty divorce he filed had cost him any legal claim to those assets. If he told her now, she might die of a heart attack. "We're working on it, Mom." "The bureaucracy is complicated," Julian lied. "What about the gala yesterday?" Beatrice asked hopefully. "Did you meet the investor?" Julian glanced at Tiffany, who was playing on her phone on the sofa. Tiffany rolled her eyes, bored with her nagging mother-in-law. "I did, Mom. Julian replied. Her name is Clara Sterling, Mr. Sterling's adopted daughter. Clara? Beatrice's eyes widened. You mean your ex-wife, Clara? That useless orphan? She's rich now, Mom. Very rich. And she agreed to meet with me tomorrow to discuss an investment. Beatrice laughed, a dry, frightening sound. Good, good. I knew she was a fool. She must still be in love with you, Julian. You're handsome, charming. She must regret divorcing you. Use that. Seduce her. If you have to, tell her to donate her other kidney, or just ask for her money to buy a new one for me. Yes, Mom, Julian said placatingly, though he had his doubts. Clara's look at the party had been anything but loving. But Julian had no other choice. He had to believe his own delusion. Mom, don't worry. Tomorrow I'll make her sign the contract. We'll be on top again. In the corner, Tiffany snorted softly. She got up and left the room, secretly texting someone, "Get the fake documents ready. If Julian gets the money, we're out of here the day after tomorrow." Monday morning, Sterling Tower. Julian arrived alone. He wore his best remaining suit and carried a briefcase filled with a doctored financial report. He was directed to the 40th floor, the executive level. The conference room had glass walls with a direct view of Central Park. At the head of a long mahogany table, Clara sat in a high-backed director's chair. To her right was Mr. Chen, and to her left, Mr. Fletcher, the lawyer, along with several analysts. She didn't stand to greet him, merely gesturing for him to sit in the chair opposite her, a position that made him look small and intimidated. "Please, Mr. Caldwell, I only have 20 minutes, Clara said without pleasantries. Clara, Miss Sterling, Julian smiled nervously. Thank you for seeing me. I was shocked by your transformation. You look incredible. The financial report, Clara cut in coldly. Julian hastily pulled out his files. As you can see, Caldwell Textiles is experiencing a temporary cash flow problem due to global market conditions, but our fundamentals are strong. We need a capital injection of $10 million for debt restructuring and working capital. Mr. Chen took the file, flipped through it briefly, and then tossed it back onto the table as if it were trash. This report is garbage, Mr. Caldwell, Mr. Chen said flatly. We've already conducted our own independent due diligence. Your company is effectively bankrupt. Your bank loans are in default, your vendors haven't been paid, and we found embezzlement of operational funds into a personal account under the name Tiffany. Julian's face went pale. That's slander. Where did you get that data? We know everything, Clara interjected. She leaned forward, locking eyes with him. But Vanguard Capital is a risk-taking firm. I see potential in your assets. Your factory land is in a strategic location. Clara pushed a thick contract across the table. We are prepared to inject $15 million, enough to pay off the banks, the vendors, and perhaps your mother's medical bills. Julian's eyes glittered with greed at the number. Really? What are the conditions? Sign here, Mr. Fletcher instructed. This is a convertible bond investment agreement. Simply put, we loan you the money. You put up all shares of Caldwell Textiles and all your personal assets as collateral. If, within 3 months, you fail to meet the sales KPIs we've set, 100% ownership of the company transfers to us. 3 months? Julian hesitated. That's very short. With $15 million, you can boost production, can't you? Unless you're not confident in your own abilities, Clara challenged. Or you can walk away empty-handed and watch your mother get evicted from the hospital. Julian swallowed hard. He was cornered. He was sure he could turn the money around. He was sure he could manipulate the sales reports later. The important thing was getting the cash now. One more thing, Mr. Fletcher added. The asset collateral appendix lists several properties registered under the name Clara Caldwell, which you claim as company assets. We need you to sign a statement affirming that these assets are indeed under the control of Caldwell Textiles Management to be used as collateral. Julian laughed internally. Fools, he thought. She's agreeing to let her own assets be used as collateral for my debt. If I default, she loses her property, not me. Without reading the penalty clauses in detail, Julian quickly signed the document. Deal, Julian said. Clara smiled. This time, her smile was genuinely sweet, yet deadly. A pleasure doing business with you, Mr. Caldwell. The funds will be transferred this afternoon. As Julian left the room with a spring in his step, Clara turned to Mr. Fletcher. He just used assets that are legally mine from the divorce decree to secure a loan he took out himself. That's collateral fraud, isn't it, Mr. Fletcher? Precisely, ma'am, the old lawyer replied. And the sales KPIs we set are impossible to achieve because we've already blocked his distribution channels through other Sterling subsidiaries. In 3 months, he won't just lose his company, he'll be going to prison. Perfect, Clara whispered. 2 weeks after the funds were transferred, Julian was on top of the world. He paid off some debts, moved his mother back to a VIP suite, and bought a new car for Tiffany. He felt his Midas touch had returned. But Clara was not idle. That afternoon in her private office, Mr. Chen placed a brown envelope on her desk. The results of the investigation into Miss Tiffany, ma'am, he reported. Clara opened it. Inside were photos, bank statements, and medical records. Just as we suspected, Clara murmured, flipping through the photos. There were pictures of Tiffany having a romantic dinner with a tattooed man, a known bookie from Queens. Then there was proof of regular wire transfers from Tiffany's account to his. The money Tiffany was spending was Julian's company money, but the most shocking item was a medical record from an OB/GYN clinic. Her pregnancy is at 12 weeks, Clara noted. Julian divorced me just over a month ago. They said she had just gotten pregnant. But if it's 12 weeks, that means she was already pregnant while you were still in the hospital, ma'am, Mr. Chen clarified. But look at this date. The estimated date of conception occurred while Mr. Caldwell was on a week-long business trip to Chicago with his staff. Meanwhile, Tiffany was captured on hotel CCTV in Miami with the tattooed man. Clara let out a grim laugh. So the child Julian is so proud of, the Caldwell heir, isn't even his. A prenatal DNA test can't be done without the mother's consent, but there is a 99% probability it is not Mr. Caldwell's child, Mr. Chen said. And one more thing. Tiffany is applying for a visa to Australia. She plans to flee next month after draining the rest of the investment funds you provided. Clara closed the file. She felt a flicker of pity for Julian, but only for a second. The pity was instantly extinguished by the memory of his face as he threw the divorce papers at her. Don't let her leave, Mr. Chen. Block her visa through our immigration connections and hold this evidence. I'll give it to Julian myself as a farewell gift. Yes, ma'am. Oh, and Mr. Caldwell is insisting on taking you to a private dinner as a thank you for the investment. Clara tapped her fingers on the desk. Except, I want to see just how low he's willing to crawl. The restaurant was a dimly lit rooftop venue with a glittering view of the city. Julian had reserved a private area, complete with candles and roses. Clara arrived in a simple but elegant black dress. She sat opposite him, maintaining her distance. Thank you for coming, Clara, Julian said softly, pouring wine into her glass. I've missed dinners like this with you. We used to eat at that pizza place in the village, remember? Now look at us, on top of the world. I don't drink alcohol, Clara declined smoothly, pushing the glass aside. Let's get to the point, Julian. What is this about? Julian put down his napkin, putting on a sad face he had practiced in the mirror. I regret everything, Clara, he began, his voice feigning a tremor. I realize I made a huge mistake. I was under so much stress back then. Mom was sick. I panicked. And Tiffany came into my life when I was weak. She manipulated me. Clara fought back a wave of nausea. Manipulated you? Weren't you the one who said I was just a spare part for your mother? Those were my mother's words, not mine, Julian quickly deflected, blaming his own mother. You know how hard she can be. I was forced, Clara. I'm her only son. I was afraid of disrespecting her. But I swear my heart was screaming when you were in surgery. I love you, Clara. Only you. Julian dared to reach for Clara's hand across the table. Her hand was cold and still. Tiffany. She's just a burden, Julian continued, emboldened because Clara didn't pull away. She's materialistic. She's cruel. Not like you, so gentle and understanding. I realize now, the baby she's carrying was a mistake. I'm not happy with her. In Clara's handbag, her phone was recording every word. So what you're saying is, Clara prompted in a flat tone. You want to get back together with me? Leave the mother of your unborn child? For you, I would leave everything, Julian promised, his eyes shining. We can start over. You have the capital, I have the business expertise. We can combine our strengths, get rid of Tiffany. We can take care of my mom together. Or, if you don't want to, we can put her in the best nursing home, as long as I'm with you. Clara looked at the man before her with utter disgust. For money and power, Julian was willing to discard his pregnant girlfriend and even his own mother. This man had no loyalty. He was a true parasite. Clara slowly withdrew her hand. She smiled, but her eyes were as cold as the Arctic. That's an interesting offer, Julian, she said. Very enlightening. I'll need some time to think about it. Of course. Take your time, Julian beamed, feeling his bait had been taken. I'll wait. I know we're meant to be. Clara stood up. I have to go. I have an early meeting tomorrow, a meeting about asset seizure. Whose assets? Julian asked, confused. You'll find out soon enough, Clara replied mysteriously. Enjoy your dinner, Julian. It might be your last fine dining experience for a while. Clara walked away, leaving Julian smiling foolishly, unaware that outside the restaurant, police cars and the Sterling Group's legal team were preparing for a dawn raid. Game over. Time for execution. The 3 months stipulated in the contract had passed. That morning, the New York sky was overcast, as if mourning the fate of Caldwell Textiles. Julian sat in his large office chair, feet propped on the desk. He felt calm. The sales report he held showed fantastic numbers falsified, of course, by a hired accountant. He planned to present it to Vanguard Capital that afternoon to ask for an extension. Life is easy when you play it smart, Julian mused, sipping his coffee. Suddenly, his office door was kicked open. Julian jumped, his coffee spilling across his white desk. In the doorway stood Mr. Fletcher, Mr. Chen, and 4 burly men in Sterling Group security uniforms. Behind them, his own employees were panicking and whispering. What is the meaning of this? Julian bellowed, his face red. Don't you have any manners? I am the CEO here. Mr. Fletcher stepped forward calmly, placing a red folder on the coffee-stained desk. Correction, Mr. Caldwell. You were the CEO. As of this moment, Caldwell Textiles and all its assets have been seized by Vanguard Capital. You're crazy, Julian laughed dismissively, though his hands began to tremble. Look at this report. Our sales are up 200%. I met the KPI. Mr. Chen stepped forward and swatted the papers from Julian's hand. We don't need your trash. We conducted a field audit last night when the office was empty. Your warehouses are empty. Your machines are idle, and the sales invoices you created are fictitious. All the buyers are shell companies you created yourself. Julian was speechless. Cold sweat poured down his back. How did they get in last night? You are in breach of Article 4 of the investment agreement regarding data manipulation, Mr. Fletcher continued, his voice as cold as a judge reading a death sentence. As per the penalty clause, 100% of the company's shares now belong to us, and you are required to vacate the premises within 10 minutes. Wait, you can't do this. Julian tried to negotiate, his tone becoming desperate. We can talk about this. Clara, where is Clara? She'll understand. Miss Sterling is on her way to the hospital to visit your mother, Mr. Chen replied. She is waiting for you there to settle the remaining accounts. What remaining accounts? Mr. Fletcher smiled thinly, producing another document. You used personal assets, namely commercial properties and a factory in Jersey, as collateral, correct? Unfortunately, those assets legally belong to Miss Sterling as per the finalized divorce decree. By using property that was not yours to secure a corporate loan, you have committed felony collateral fraud. Julian's eyes widened in horror. His legs gave out, and he collapsed back into his chair. It was a trap. Clara had said it from the very beginning. She let him use her assets as collateral so he could be criminally charged. The police are waiting in the lobby downstairs, Mr. Chen said, glancing at his watch. But Miss Sterling was kind enough to ask them to delay the arrest for 2 hours. She wants you to see the final act at the hospital. My advice is not to waste time. Julian didn't wait. He grabbed his car keys and ran out like a madman, bumping into his own employees, who stared at him with contempt. His empire had crumbled in an instant. The hospital's VIP suite was tense. The heart monitor beeped erratically, reflecting Beatrice's critical condition. Julian burst in, out of breath. He saw his mother lying weak, hooked up to tubes. On the sofa, Tiffany was frantically stuffing jewelry and Julian's luxury watches into her Louis Vuitton bag. "What are you doing?" Julian yelled, snatching the bag. "Are you trying to run?" "Let go, Julian!" Tiffany shrieked. "Your company is gone. Your credit cards are all dead. I have to save myself and my baby. Our baby! It's our baby!" "Whose baby?" A cold voice from the doorway cut through their argument. Clara stepped in. She wore a simple white dress, looking like an elegant angel of death. Behind her, 2 bodyguards closed and guarded the door, ensuring no one could leave. "Clara!" Beatrice whispered weakly, her eyes welling up as she saw her former daughter-in-law. "Help me. I'm sick." Clara ignored Beatrice for a moment, looking at Tiffany and Julian. "Please, continue," she said, sitting leisurely in a chair beside the bed. "Julian, you said our baby. You should probably see this." Clara tossed the brown envelope, the P.I.'s file, onto the floor at Julian's feet. Photos of Tiffany with the tattooed man and the medical records scattered. Julian picked them up with a trembling hand, his eyes darting between the intimate photos and Tiffany's face. What is this, Tiffany?" Julian's voice was hoarse. "This date. I was in Chicago." Tiffany was silent, her face pale. Checkmate. "And this," Clara pointed to the medical record. "Your blood type is B, Julian. Tiffany's is O. But the fetus has a genetic marker that is only possible if the father has type A blood, just like the tattooed man in the photos." "Whore!" Julian roared. He lunged at Tiffany, slapping her face so hard she fell to the floor. "You tricked me. You said it was my child. For you, I divorced Clara. For you, I ruined my life. You're the fool!" Tiffany screamed back, holding her red cheek. "Did you think I wanted a weak man like you for anything but your money? And your mother is just as bad. A miserable old hag. I'm sick of taking care of her." "Enough!" Clara's voice stopped the chaos. She took out her phone and connected it to the room's speakers. "Tiffany, you think you're a victim here? Why don't you listen to what your fiancé had to say about you just 3 days ago at dinner with me?" Clara pressed play. Julian's voice filled the room, crystal clear. "Tiffany, she's just a burden. She's materialistic. She's cruel. The baby she's carrying was a mistake. We can put my mom in the best nursing home. As long as I'm with you." The silence that followed the recording was far more painful than any shouting. Beatrice turned her head stiffly toward Julian, tears rolling down her wrinkled cheeks. Her precious son, the one she had always defended, the one for whom Clara was sacrificed, had been planning to dump her in a nursing home. "Julian," Beatrice sobbed. You were going to throw me away?" Julian shook his head frantically, backing away. He was trapped between the 2 women he had betrayed. "No, Mom, that was just a tactic. It was just a line to get Clara to give me money." "A tactic?" Clara stood up, her face a blank mask. "No, Julian, that is your true nature. You will sell anyone to save yourself. You sold your wife for a kidney. You sold your girlfriend for money. And you sold your mother for your own comfort." Clara looked at the 3 of them, broken and in ruins. "This is the family you were so proud of, backstabbing, deceiving, and discarding one another. Enjoy the hell you've created for yourselves." Tiffany, realizing her position was lost, saw her chance while Julian was distracted. She grabbed her bag and tried to run past the guards. Clara gave a hand signal. The police in the lobby would handle Tiffany on charges of embezzlement reported by Mr. Chen. Now only Julian was left, collapsed on the floor, crying like a child, and Beatrice, whose breathing was becoming shallow. Clara walked toward Beatrice's bed. "Clara." Beatrice's thin, dry hand tried to reach for Clara's. Her skin was cold. "Forgive me. I was wrong. I was so wrong. Come back, child. Be my daughter-in-law again. Help me. Ask Mr. Sterling for a donor. He must have connections." The sight was pathetic. The woman who was once so arrogant, who had called Clara trash and a spare part, was now begging for her life from the very same person. Julian crawled over, hugging Clara's legs. "Clara, please, Clara. Mom is dying. I'll go to prison, I'll do anything, but please help my mother. You're a good person, right? You're an angel, aren't you?" Clara looked at Beatrice's hand and then slowly, firmly, pushed it away. "I did once donate my kidney, Beatrice," Clara said softly, "but I did it because I thought I was donating it to my mother. My own mother, who is gone, never asked for anything from me, but she gave me unconditional love." Clara leaned close to Beatrice's ear. "You are not my mother. You are the woman who told her son to divorce me while I was still bleeding in recovery. You didn't see me as a human being then, you saw me as an object. Clara, please." "Mr. Sterling does have connections," Clara continued, straightening up. "But his resources are reserved for people of value. A kidney is a gift of life, Beatrice. And I'm sorry, but you no longer qualify to receive such a gift." The heart monitor beeped faster and faster. "Clara!" Julian screamed. "Our business is finished," Clara said. She turned and walked toward the door without looking back. "Clara, don't go! Mom! Mom!" Julian's screams mixed with a long, piercing tone from the monitor. A flat green line appeared on the screen. Beatrice's heart had given up, not just from renal failure, but from the heartbreak of her own son's betrayal. She died scared, in pain, and filled with unforgivable regret. Clara paused at the doorway when she heard the sound. She didn't smile. She didn't cry. She just took a long, deep breath, as if releasing a heavy weight that had been chained to her feet. She stepped out, leaving the room now filled with Julian's ragged sobs. 2 days after Beatrice's death, the funeral was desolate. Only Julian, a few distant relatives fulfilling an obligation, and the cemetery workers were there. No business partners, no high society friends. News of the Caldwell family's bankruptcy and scandal had spread, making them social pariahs. Julian stood before the fresh mound of red earth. He wore a wrinkled black shirt, his eyes swollen. He was alone. Tiffany had been arrested at the airport trying to flee to Singapore with a fake passport. The company money she had stolen was seized as evidence. As the last flower was placed, 2 uniformed police officers approached Julian. "Mr. Julian Caldwell?" Julian looked up, listless. "Yes, we're from the NYPD. You're under arrest for suspicion of fraud, asset embezzlement, and bank document forgery. Here is the warrant." Julian didn't resist. He had no energy left. He held out his hands. The click of the steel handcuffs felt cold against his skin, colder than the cemetery air. As he was led to the police car, he saw a black luxury sedan parked in the distance. The back window rolled down halfway. Inside, Clara sat watching him, her face calm behind a pair of dark sunglasses. Julian stopped, wanting to scream, to beg, perhaps to curse. But no words came out. He realized this was all a harvest of the seeds he had sown. He had traded a diamond for a stone. He had thrown away a woman of true worth for a fake. Clara raised the window. The car drove away, leaving Julian to be pushed into the back of a police cruiser on his way to the iron bars that would be his home for the next 10 years. In his jail cell that night, Julian curled up on the hard floor. There was no soft mattress, no air conditioning, no one to comfort him. The image of Clara's smile, from before all this madness began, flashed in his mind. It was the only pure thing he had ever had, and he had destroyed it himself. Julian wept in silence, a cry no one would ever hear again. 1 year later, Clara stood on a hill in a peaceful public cemetery, far from the city's hustle. Before her were 2 simple, well-kept headstones, the graves of her birth parents. She placed a fresh bouquet of white lilies. "Dad, Mom," Clara whispered, smiling. The evening breeze played with the ends of her short hair. "I'm okay. I'm doing very well. I hope you're proud." It had been a busy year for Clara. Under Mr. Sterling's guidance, she transformed Vanguard Capital into a respected social impact investment firm. She used the company's profits to establish a foundation for low-income kidney failure patients, providing them with free dialysis and access to legal, ethical transplant support. She had turned her pain into hope for others. The surgical scar on her side had faded to a thin, white line. She used to hate it as a symbol of her foolishness. Now, she saw it as a badge of honor, a sign that she had fought, been broken, and had put herself back together, stronger than before. Finished talking to them? A deep voice came from behind her. Clara turned. Dr. Vance stood there, not in a doctor's coat, but in a casual shirt with rolled-up sleeves. He held 2 cups of warm coffee. "Just about," Clara replied, accepting the cup he offered. "Thanks for coming with me." "Mr. Sterling sends a message," Leo said, taking a sip of his coffee. "He said not to stay out too late. There's a shareholder meeting tomorrow, and he needs his favorite granddaughter in top form to fight the grumpy board of directors." Clara laughed, a light, easy sound. "That old man is so dramatic. His new kidney is perfectly healthy. Thanks to an incredible donor," Leo said, looking at Clara. His gaze was no longer that of a doctor to a patient, or even just a friend. It was the look of a man who admired the woman before him with all his heart. "You know, Clara, I've always been amazed by you. Not because you're a CEO now, but because you didn't let revenge turn you into a monster like them." Clara looked at the sky, which was turning a golden orange. "Vengeance is exhausting, Leo. I took back what was mine. I taught them a lesson. The rest is up to God and the law. I have a new life to live." Leo nodded. He gathered his courage and shifted his hand, his fingers brushing against hers. "Well then, maybe in between your busy new life, there's room for dinner?" "Not a business dinner. A date." Clara looked at his hand, then into his eyes. She thought of Julian and the trauma of her past, but then she saw the sincerity in Leo's eyes, the man who had saved her, who had stood by her at her lowest, and who had patiently waited for her to heal. Clara didn't answer right away. She turned her hand over and intertwined her fingers with his. "How do you feel about a hot dog from a street cart?" she asked, a playful smile on her lips. "No fancy rooftop restaurants." Leo laughed, his face bright with relief. "A hot dog. It's a date. I know the best spot in the city." They walked side by side down the cemetery hill, leaving the shadows of the past behind them. Ahead, the sun was setting beautifully, promising that tomorrow it would rise again, brighter than before. Clara Caldwell was gone. Long live Clara Sterling.